Hi everyone, my name is Kara. Welcome back to So Arizona. Today I am here underneath the shade of this beautiful oak tree that's in my front courtyard to talk to you about all of the seeds that you can plant right now for your southern Arizona garden. I have been doing these what seeds and transplants I'm planting right now in my garden videos, and I've had a lot of positive feedback from people saying that it was really helpful, so I'm going to continue doing those. It's a fairly short list today because we are in June, and May and June can be very hot and very dry here in southern Arizona, which can be hard on the garden, but there are still things that you can plant and things that you can prepare for so that you can keep your garden going for the rest of the season. If you're wanting to take advantage of the second chance at growing warm season things like tomatoes, eggplants, chilies, tomatillos, then now is your chance. If you want to start them from seed, you can do so right now so that they're ready for transplant during the monsoon season, July through August. Of course, if you want to wait and you want to purchase transplants, there are some local plant sales, for example at Native Seed Search, that happens right around the monsoon season, and they will have plant starts available for you that are appropriate for planting during the monsoon season. I have a pretty short list of vegetables, a little bit longer list of flowers, and I have one fruit that gets an honorable mention right now. And these, I should specify, are all things that I'm starting from seeds. That way I have transplants that are available in July and August once the monsoons roll around that I can then use to plant my garden beds. I'm going to put a graphic up on the screen, and that's so that you can pause it if you would like to, and you can jot it down. Normally I would add a downloadable PDF, but I'm not going to do that this time because it is such a short list. So first up are chilies. So if you want to do any kind of chilies, now is the time to sow those seeds. So you can do it directly outside, but I find that I get much better results when I sow them inside and then plant the transplants later. And that's because it is so hot right now that little plant babies really have a hard time getting established when they first emerge from the soil. It is so hot and so dry and so windy right now that I just have much better luck with my peppers when I start them inside. That isn't the case for all things, but it is for peppers. So if you're planning on planting any kind of chili pepper, jalapeno, spicy pepper, what have you, you can do that right now by sowing your seeds indoors. You can also do that for your bell peppers. So if you have any kind of a bell pepper that you want to try, then you can do that inside. And I want to share with you the ones that I am going to be trying this year, because I have a couple of new ones for me, and I have a couple of replacements because the mice got to mine out in the garden. The first chili that I am planting are jalapenos, and I'm planting the early jalapenos, and that is because I want a shorter number of days to maturity, since I'm planting them a little bit later in the second half of the season. And really, I thought that I had overwintered successfully some of my jalapeno plants outside, but it turns out only one of them made it. And so I am very short on jalapenos right now, and I want to get them going quickly, so I'm doing the early jalapenos. It looks like they have a maturity date of 63 days from transplanting. So these are just some seeds that I have from Botanical Interests. They are the early jalapeno. So the next one that I'm doing, these are going to be replacements, and that's because I have had a little bit of a pack rat or mouse problem out in my garden this year, and I had some of those lunchbox peppers. Those are the multicolored packs that you can get in the produce section. They are sweet and they're crunchy and they're really yummy on salads, not spicy at all. But I have some seeds. These I got just as a free sample. They are called the Sweet Pepper Rainbow Snack, and I have the red and the yellow. So I had originally planted those in the winter, like around December, January or so, and I had planted the transplants outside, and when I was looking yesterday, I saw that the plants had been entirely eaten by something. And that's crazy because these plants were probably 12 to 18 inches tall, so they were well on their way. So I definitely want these for my salads. I use them all the time, and we really had great luck with this variety last year. I had so many, probably more than I could use. I wish that I could give you a variety for these, but since these are just a free sample for me, that is all it says. Sweet Pepper Rainbow Snack, red and yellow. So that's all all of the information I have on there for you. I'm sure that if you looked up like a rainbow snacking pepper online on your favorite seed website, you could probably find a version of that that will work for you. For the other jalapeno variety that I'm using, I am trying a brand new variety for me. This is from Baker Creek, and this is the brown jalapeno. So I've not grown these before. I've grown the pumpkin spice and the lemon spice and have had such great luck with those. But this year I'm gonna try these just because they looked really, really interesting. The description on these brown jalapenos is interesting. It says, wildly productive plants are smothered in a Leviathan chocolate colored pod. So that sounds really good to me. They're supposed to be smoky and flavorful peppers that are 4 to 6 inches long, and they're good for stuffing and for roasting. So I wanted to try something a little bit different with the jalapenos. So I've got the traditional early jalapeno just for fresh eating, but then I wanted to try these because I'm interested in smoking them. And that's because I had purchased some already dried and smoked chipotle peppers last year, and they were so good. So I really am thinking about having my husband smoke these on his smoker to see if we can get some yummy ones that we have grown ourselves. This next one is also a replacement, not because something ate it, not because I forgot to start it, but because I failed to mother this plant properly when it was a seedling and they died. I planted probably 6 of these. These are the Sugar Rush Peach. These are a sweet but spicy chili, and I've seen some really good reviews on these and people that seem to really like them. So I'm gonna try again on these. The next one is new to me. This is the Aji Charapita, and this looks very cool. And this one says, super tiny from Peru, often grown as a house plant. So it says the small peppers are harvested as needed in the kitchen. Its distinct fruity citrus aroma is equal in heat to a cayenne pepper. So those look very cute and very interesting. This one also I had some people recommend on Instagram. This is the Lesya pepper, and it is supposed to be the sweetest of all peppers with a very thick flesh. So the ají and this Lesya are both new to me this year. I have never tried them before. And last but not least, this is one that I've tried and I've really liked. It's an old one. It was a pre-1947 variety. And so it's an heirloom. This is the fish pepper. And so I really like this one. Let's see what they say. It says, spicy and hot. I would agree with that. So this one is definitely a keeper. So those are the chilies that I am going to be planting today. So I'm going to put those right here. And the last 2 are just a basic bell pepper, although one is a lot more exciting than the others. The first one is the good old California Wonder. You can't go wrong with that one. And the other one is I'm gonna put the name on the screen because I have no idea how to pronounce that. This one says, let me read you the description. This says, introduced before 1860, the 6 to 7 inch cone-shaped peppers are perfect for frying and for salads. And they're supposed to be sweet, flavorful, and disease resistant. So that sounds really good to me. But I thought these looked a lot like a bell pepper, but you can fry them because they are pretty thick fleshed. And then the last 2 vegetable varieties that I'm going to try are not usually on the list of things to plant in June in Tucson, but I always like having extra, and I like succession sowing them. So that means sowing seeds a couple weeks after you do transplant, so that you always have a new small transplant to put out in the garden as the older transplant is growing and getting bigger. And these are for my zucchini and summer squash. So I'm going to be doing a Black Beauty zucchini and a Mexicana zucchini. It's like a gray Mexican squash, and also a yellow crookneck squash. Those 3. I'm starting these so that I can ensure that I have zucchini and summer squash throughout the entire summer. And that's because they are very prone to getting attacked by pests. So you may find that you have a really healthy plant one day and you come out and you find that your plant is wilted. I have had that happen so many times. So I like to have an insurance policy of extra transplants in the house house that are ready to go and be put out, you know, every few weeks. That way I'm covered. If something gets my plants, then I don't have to worry about not having zucchini from my garden for the summer. And the pests that I'm talking about are the squash vine borers. So let's talk about some tomatoes. I planted so many different varieties of tomatoes this year. I planted determinate and indeterminate, semi-determinate, and also a lot of different dwarf options because I'm trying out some things in my stock tanks for being able to help people with growing in small spaces. I decided that for monsoon season, I am just going to try pruning some of my tomatoes back so that I can reuse or restart some of the growth on those plants that I already have planted. However, there are 3 different varieties that I am going to start from seed right now so that I have transplants available to put out during the monsoon season. I have heard really good things about the performance of these 3 different tomato varieties during our hot season here in southern Arizona, so I want to share those with you. These are new to me, so I have not tried them yet, so keep that in mind. This is an experiment, but if you would like to experiment along with me, then feel free to do so. So the first one is the tomato called Orange King. And all 3 of these came from Adaptive Seeds, and I will put the link to their website down below along with these 3 tomato varieties that I am going to be trying from them. So like I said, the first one is Orange King. And this one is said to be one of the best producers of 8-ounce sized orange tomatoes. And they're supposed to do really well in the heat as well. The second one is called Native Sun, also from Adaptive Seeds, and it produces 3 to 4 ounce lemon colored tomatoes. So that sounded really interesting to me. Crack resistant, blemish free. And then the third one is Siletz. And that one is a superb early production tomato. It's supposed to be very productive of 10-ounce big juicy slicer type tomatoes. So all 3 of those are ones that I will be trying from seed this year. So if you'd like to try along with me, that's what I'm trying. Then the other things that you can plant right now are eggplants and tomatillos. Now I had so many tomatillos come up volunteer, and I started them from seed early in the spring. And so I have plenty of tomatillos, so I'm not going to be starting any more of those. However, my favorite tomatillo variety, in case you want to try them, is the Toma Verde variety. It's a small yellow tomatillo, and rather than being so sour and tart, it is kind of buttery and sweet as well. So it's a really unique variety from Native Seed Search, of course. And then as far as eggplants go, I am up to my ears in eggplants. My plants are doing really well. They are super healthy and very productive. So I am just going to skip on planting any more seeds for eggplants for monsoon season. But in case you're wondering, I have got the Patio Baby growing right now, which is by far the most prolific small type of eggplant for a small space. So you could give that a try if you're growing in a small space. And the other is the Black Beauty, which is that classic large purple eggplant. And that one is so productive during the heat of summer. I've also tried the Listada, and I will put those all down below, of course, as always. The Listada is a purple and white streaked. It's really beautiful, and it's got a nice thin skin. So that one is really nice too, that I've grown in previous years. There are always so many different kinds of tomatoes and eggplants and peppers to try, so many different varieties, and so I just think it is so much fun to try different ones every year, and what works in my area may not work as well in yours and vice versa. So I'm always open to suggestions. If you have any suggestions for your favorite that you have had really good luck with, then please let me know in the comments below. I think part of gardening is sharing both variety suggestions as well as the fruits of our labors in the form of produce and in the form of seeds. And so I love the sharing aspect of gardening so much. And so that is part of what gives me so much joy about sharing with you some of these varieties. When I find a variety that works really well for me, or a variety that I have heard really good things about, even if I haven't tried it yet, I am always very excited to share those with you so that you can try them in your own garden, because we all have very different microclimates in our yard and in our gardens. And I just think that through trial and error, we can find some really well-suited ones for us, even when it is blisteringly hot in the summertime, like it has been for the last few days. I decided that I was going to try to plant these seeds while I talk to you, and I am realizing that I don't do such a great job with talking and doing at the same time. So it is definitely a lot harder than it looks, and but I'm doing my best. I'm trying to multitask here because I'm getting ready to go out of town today, actually. So I'm going to get these last few seeds planted. I'm going to fill up this self-watering tray with some water, and hopefully over the next week while I'm gone, some of these seeds will be germinating. Now, probably the pepper seeds will not be germinated by the time I get back. I would be very surprised if they are, but I do expect a lot of the flowers and the tomatoes to be popping up, which will be a really sweet greeting when I get home from my travels. And I will probably be sharing some reels for you for where I'm going and what I'm seeing. I've got a garden that I may visit, no promises yet, but I am hoping to be able to do a little tour of this garden that is located in the spot where I'm going to be. So stay tuned on that. We'll see, but I'm just trying to get all of these last minute things done so that I can stay on track with the garden while I'm gone. I'm also bringing so many different little things that I have harvested this morning. I've stocked my Airstream refrigerator with all sorts of goodies from the garden so that I can eat healthy and have a little slice of the garden while I'm away. Now, I always miss the garden a little bit when I'm gone, and I guess that's normal. When you put so much heart and energy into something, it's a space that I enjoy so much and brings me so much peace and joy that I sometimes feel a little bit lonely for when I'm away. But I think having all of those goodies like eggplants and tomatoes and onions and garlic and beets stocked in my refrigerator in the Airstream is going to be the next best thing. And one other vegetable that you can grow right now, you can directly sow it or you can transplant it. Now, I have heard people say that okra does not like to be transplanted, but I have been really careful when I've transplanted it not to disturb the roots too much, and I have not had a problem with the okra. It has taken off and just gone crazy and been very productive all summer, and so I haven't had a problem with that. So if you want to start it inside and then transplant it out, you could do that, but really it's super easy to just sow okra directly into your garden right now. It loves the heat. The hotter the better. You can use it as a trellis if you have some beans that you want to climb up the tall stalks. I would give the okra a little bit of a head start so that they don't get overtaken by the beans too soon. So hold off on that. As far as the beans go, it's a little hot right now for planting beans. Beans will tend to drop their blossoms when it gets to be 90 or so, and then they just won't set fruit. They'll flower and they'll grow, but you just won't get a lot of beans unless you choose tepary beans or cowpeas or something like that. So yeah, so that is my recommendation for all the vegetables that you can grow. All right, let's go ahead and move on to flower seeds. These are the ones I'm working with today. I know it is a lot of them, and I'm not going to plant all of them, but I got all of the zinnias and all of the cosmos and a few other things out so that I had them so I could kind of go through the packets and pick the colors that I wanted to plant right now. So as far as flowers go, you are going to be able to plant from seed either inside or outside cosmos. And the cosmos I really love because You can prune them back or pinch them back, which has gotten really popular in order to make them branch, and that will create more blooms later on. You can also do that with zinnias as well, but cosmos are a really nice, just all-around, all-purpose flower for a lot of different pollinators, and I like to include it in my garden just all over the place. And it has got such a fine and delicate structure that I find that it will fit in all kinds of different situations. So I can put it with my zinnias, and I can put it with my sunflowers, and I can put it with a lot of different kinds of flowers, and I really like to mix lots of things together. And that's because pollinators are selective based upon their mouth parts and upon their feeding practices, and so not all flowers will support all pollinators. So I like to have a variety of bloom shapes in order to support as many pollinators as I can. And so I think that what I'm going to do is try doing like a nice bright rainbow mix. So I've got a lot of orange, and I've got a lot of yellow, and I've got actually these really fun black cosmos. These are called Black Magic. I don't know if that is going to focus there. There we go. Yeah, those are really cute. And I think, I don't know if you can tell, but they've kind of got an orange center. And I think that those will coordinate with some of the orange and the yellow, even though these are a bit darker. So I'm going to do that, but I also found these Snowpuff double click cosmos, and they are a white little poofy like variety. And so I think what I'll do is I'm going to have a bed of cosmos that are like those really bright and vibrant colors like orange and yellows, along with those Black Magic ones. And then I'm going to have one that is more pastel. So I've got these Apricot Lemonade right here, and those are kind of like a little peachy on the outside and kind of a pink on the inside with a yellow center, and I think those will look really cute with these white Snowpuff cosmos. So I'm gonna sow a few of those while I talk to you, and try not to get too confused because talking and doing for me is really hard sometimes. So I'm gonna have to try to remember, whoops, the wind just blew away a lot of my seed packets. I'm gonna have to try to remember to add the tag to this after each one, because talking and doing things for me is not always the easiest thing. So if you're wondering, yes, you can also sow these seeds directly in the garden, but I'm just doing this myself because I've got some travel coming up, and I want to make sure the seeds are well watered and also not getting too stressed out from the sun, which is really intense right now. I don't want my seedlings, I don't want to take a chance on not getting them started on time. And since I won't be around to watch them every day, I've got some self-watering trays, so they'll be fine in that regard. But I would feel much more comfortable if they are in the air conditioning under lights while I'm away. And that way when I come back, hopefully I will come back to some seedlings that are ready to go. So those are the Apricot Lemonade that I just sowed. And so I'm gonna write a little tag for that one. I found these tags. These are like a bamboo wooden tag, and they actually break down fairly quickly. I've found that the writing, as long as you use a permanent marker, will stay on, which is really nice. I've had problems with some of the plastic ones fading and washing off, but the part that is in the soil will break down and get pretty mushy and start decomposing right away. So if that happens, I will just snap off the end and then poke it down a little bit further. That way it will allow me to remember what I actually planted there, even though they break down. And then I can use less plastic too, and I really love that. So I've got those marked. So let's talk about the next flower that you can start right now, and that is one of the most common flowers, I think, of the summer garden, and those are zinnias. And zinnias, I think, are one of the easiest flower. Butterflies love them, bumblebees love them, honeybees love them, and they really support a lot of the beneficial insects. I can't tell you how many times I have come out into my garden and found little assassin bugs, which are the good guys, hanging out underneath the zinnia blooms, you know, and praying mantises as well, which, you know, those praying mantises are kind of a generalist. You know, they will just hunt anything. They have captured butterflies and eaten them. They will capture bees and eat them, but they also get a lot of the bad guys too. And so you kind of have to put up with a little bit of that, and hopefully it will all balance itself out. So I love zinnias for the variety that they bring, both the colors and the texture. So I'm going to show you a couple of these. So we've got Peppermint Stick, and those have like little flecks or little stripes in them. And then I've got this Aztec Burgundy Bicolor, which is like a single bloom. It doesn't have the poofy double rows like some of the others do, but it's a multi-branch zinnia, and it's very interesting. I just really love that. And then we've got this one, which is a full little bloom. This is the Queeny Lime version. They've got a lot of different color versions of this. This one is the Queeny Lemon Peach, and they just look like little pom-pom balls. I just love that. So I love the fact that you can get just a single row. You can get the ones that look like little pom-pom balls. You can get the multi-branched ones, and in pretty much any color you can imagine. I even have some zinnias that are white. I think they're called the polar bear, if I recall, and those are really cute too. Like, you would think that maybe a white zinnia would not be so great in the garden. Maybe it would be a little bit boring, but I just love the combination of colors, and the white really brightens things up quite a bit. Another one that I really like to grow are 4 o'clocks, and 4 o'clocks are the same. I have found some really interesting color combinations. I've got one right now that is kind of an orange color that's got like a really iridescent, almost pink little center in it, and the hummingbirds have really liked that. I've got one that is a hot pink color that is very cute. I've got one that is called 4 o'clock Lemon Swirl, and if you can see that, it looks like that, and I really like that one too. And then of course I've got the Color Blast, which is just like, you know, just a really good mix of things. But I have a lot of different colors of those 4 o'clocks, and they're kind of an old-fashioned flower. I don't actually see them grown in gardens that often, and so I tried them last year, and I had grown them when I was gardening in Ohio before we moved here, and they did really well there, but I wasn't sure how they would do with the heat. But they actually do so well in the heat here. I decided that I was going to grow the 4 o'clocks underneath some of my orchard trees this year, because I've been trying to work on planting some plant guild, and part of that is including other fruit bushes, other herbs, other kinds of flowers and things like that. So I want to include those flowers so that I can draw in some of the pollinators and just add more life, and it's really pretty. Instead of just having, you know, a bare trunk sticking up out of the ground, it's surrounded by all kinds of beautiful flowers this year, and I will include some video of that so that you can see it. And I think so far it's going really well. I've added quite a few flowers. I've added some herbs to it. I still need to add quite a few fruits, so I'm still researching some of it, but I've got some black consort currants, and I have my ground cherries, of course, which are really nice. And so I've got a lot of different ideas for things, but I've been doing a lot of research on something called permaculture guilds. And permaculture guilds are just the concept of including a lot of different things with your fruit trees. So imagining like high, medium, and low planting zones, and then planting accordingly. You can plant herbs to try to repel or attract pests or beneficial insects, whichever it may be, and pollinators, and you can use that space by using smaller statured fruit bushes. And so that way you're just utilizing all of your space at the same time. And so I really love the concept of being able to be as efficient as possible with my space. So we've talked about cosmos, and we've talked about zinnias, and now I want to talk about another flower, and that is marigolds. And I know marigolds, everyone seems to, you know, think that they are for pest prevention, but they're really not like sought after that much, I don't think. But I love marigolds because they come in a lot of different colors and textures and heights as well. And so I've got a list of marigolds that I am growing this year in my garden, and right now some of the names are evading me, so I will include those down below in the description box, as I always do. But I've got some tall ones and some short ones, and some that are kind kind of in between. And I also love the little gem because they are so delicate. Like if there could be a fairy marigold plant, that would be it. And I just love how pretty they are. So I've got quite a few of those planted. And the benefit of growing marigolds, if you didn't know, is that they can help treat your soil when you have problems with nematodes. Where's my pen? Have you ever noticed that when you're wrapping presents or when you're, trying to do something like that, you always lose your pen and or your scissors or the tape, and you can't figure out where it went to? But I found it, so it's okay. But I was mentioning in a previous video that I had some problems with root knot nematodes, and so what I have done is plant a couple of my stock tanks that are affected with those marigolds, and so that way I had the choice between leaving them just empty and turning off the water because the nematodes really need the water just like everything else does. I could solarize them by adding some plastic to the top to really heat that soil up because the nematodes would not like that. Or I could try growing some plants that tend to repel them through the compounds that they release from their roots. Like mustard is one, and I will be growing that in the cooler season. Another is marigolds. Nematodes do not like the compounds that marigolds release from their roots. And so I thought, why not add some beauty to the garden and more flowers to attract pollinators while at the same time treating for my nematodes. So that's what I did. It seemed like a win-win situation. So if you are having problems with nematodes, root knot nematodes specifically, in your garden or in your beds, then I would highly recommend trying to use plants as your first line of defense to try to treat those. I'll let you know how it goes for mine. So far those marigolds are growing so well. They are just really prolific and just going crazy. So I don't think that the nematodes are bothering them, but I hope that they are bothering the nematodes. I don't want to scare you though, because there are different kinds of nematodes. There are beneficial nematodes that actually will hunt and kill the bad guys, the bad nematodes. And then there are the root knot nematodes that will start to invade the roots of plants and cause knots to form in the roots. So if you've ever pulled up a plant and you see there are all these little knots in it, almost like strings of pearls, then it may be that you have root knot nematodes. Not always though, because there are some plants that form little knots or little pearls on there, and those are nitrogen containing nodules if we are talking about legumes. So if you're pulling up your bean plants or your pea plants or what have you that are in the bean family and you see that they have some sort of a nodule on the root, that is actually a good thing. That is where the plant is fixing nitrogen from the air and storing it in the roots. And you want to keep those roots in your soil because that is how they break down and then enrich your soil with nitrogen. But I'm talking about other things, other plants that are not nitrogen fixers, that do not form those nitrogen containing nodules. If you're pulling up plants that are doing poorly and you're finding that there are nodules on them, then chances are that is the root knot nematode. And you could try mustard or marigolds or something like that to treat them at first. So we've talked about cosmos, 4 o'clocks, marigolds, and zinnias, and that is quite a bit that you can still plant in your garden. The next flower that I want to talk about is coreopsis. And coreopsis is a really beautiful, very branching, very fine, but pretty tall plant. It has little blooms that remind me a little bit actually of like a yellow cosmo. I think I have some video of coreopsis, so I will put that on there just in case you are new to gardening and you don't know what they look like. But I love coreopsis too. They do really well in the dry climate. They sow really well just directly in the garden, but you could also start them in seed trays. I've done that before too. So it's up to you on how you want to do that. I just opened up this Black Magic Cosmos seed, and there are only 5 seeds in this packet. And at first I thought maybe it was mispacked, but when I turn over the label, it says Minimum of 4 seeds, $5. So I had no idea that there were so few seeds for so much money. This is crazy. So if I'm going to research this, I don't think that it's a hybrid, and if it's not, I am definitely saving these seeds because I'm holding 5 little pieces of gold in my hand right now for sure. So I am definitely going to be careful with these and make sure that I tend to them properly and I don't let anything happen to them. The next seed that we can talk about is the Tithonia, and a Tithonia is a Mexican sunflower, and it's got a beautiful dark orange, vibrant, you know, kind of like a daisy type structure, I guess, and it's got a yellow center, and the moths and the butterflies are just in love with these things. I had them covered last year. They get really big. One plant will branch out probably like 3 feet. 3 feet wide maybe and 3 feet tall at least, and so those are big plants, so you need a lot of space for those. I planted a couple of volunteers that came up from last year's seed underneath my pear tree, so we'll see if I regret that or not. I'm hoping it will just branch out and bush out and that it will shade the soil below and keep it a lot cooler and a lot moister, while also attracting the pollinators. But those are a really good flower to have around because they love the heat and the sun that we have here in southern Arizona at this time of the year. And they also are really easy to self-seed. So if you've had them in your garden in previous seasons, chances are you will have them in your garden again. They're a really easy one to sow seeds or to save seeds from. So that's an option too, although you'll want to wear gloves for that because they have an extremely sharp and pokey seed pod for sure. So I've got 2 more to talk about, and that is moss rose and also sunflowers, of course. And sunflowers are the star, in my opinion, of the summer garden. The birds love them, the bumblebees love them, the bees love them, everything. And so I've even seen butterflies on them, and they are so beautiful, and they also come in so many different shapes and sizes. So I don't think that I need to explain sunflowers to you all, but I will mention a couple that I am really, really excited about trying this year because they're just new to me, and so I'm just so excited. I can never get enough of the sunflowers, and I save sunflower seeds from my garden every year, and I will just kind of let them mix together and see what I get. It's a proprietary blend from So Arizona for sure, and I love seeing the combinations that the bees and the pollinators give me after they've gotten done pollinating them. I've gotten some really interesting mixes, some really beautiful and some not so much, some a little bit weird if I'm being honest, but always really pretty. And so I always think the more sunflowers the better. While we've been chit-chatting, I already got this entire seed tray done. This is kind of like a plug tray. It's not quite as small as a typical plug tray, but there are 72 cells in these, and they are self-watering, which is really nice. So I can usually get about a week and a half, sometimes 2 weeks out of these if I have them in the house, because if I have these seed trays outside, they're gonna dry out a lot faster for sure. All right, let's talk about the sunflowers. I'm not gonna go through every single sunflower that I am trying this year because some of them are older and I've mentioned them before, and it would just be way too many because honestly I use them to shade other plants. I use them for borders. I use them for little trellises so that beans can climb up them. So I have sunflowers growing like crazy everywhere, and so it's a little wild out there right now, but one of them is new. I just kind of picked a couple of these up on a whim from Home Depot when I was there the other day. I usually don't buy seeds from Home Depot. I don't have anything against that really, but I just prefer to support smaller independently owned companies, you know, like Baker Creek or Botanical Interests or Territorial Seeds, Adaptive Seeds. There are so many different great small seed companies, but I could not resist this. This one is the Sunflower Chianti Hybrid. See if I can get the camera to focus. Look how beautiful that is. And then there's also, this is not a hybrid. This is called Tiger Eye Mix. This one's like a really floofy teddy bear type, and so that one was really adorable. But I've got a couple of others that I do want to mention. Of course, I have some of Sunflower Steve's Van Gogh Fantasy Mix, and those are all different kinds. Really, the picture on the packet doesn't do it justice, but I'm going to be planting some of those. Now let me look at some of my other favorite ones here that I've got that I really want to mention. Any of the sunflower seeds that you get from Native Seed Search are great because they support a great cause, and they're just really amazing sunflowers, very well adapted. So I've got a Hopi branch, and I've got another one, and I cannot pronounce the name on this one. Let me hold it up. I will put the names in the description for sure. And then I've got this Tarahumara white seeded sunflower, and I got that one from Seed Savers Exchange. So that one, I've actually got a couple that are going to seed right now out in the garden, and they have white seeds, as the name would imply when they say white seeded. So that is the truth, and so I would highly recommend that one. But I'm a sucker for the orange and red sunflowers for sure. So I've got, let's see, which one do I want to show you? I've got the Starburst mix, and I've got the infrared mix from Territorial Seed. And I'm not going to show you these seed packets because Territorial doesn't do like a variety specific one. If it's sunflowers, it will just have a drawing of sunflowers on it. It's not specific to what is in the packet, and that's true for all of their varieties. So if you buy a cucumber or a tomato from them, all the packets will kind of look the same. They will have tomatoes on them if they're tomatoes, but they're not specific to the seed that is inside. So I won't hold those up. But I'm gonna definitely be planting some of those. So the last variety of flower that I want to talk about, I'm going to mention them all together. The last flower variety that I want to talk about is moss rose and purslane or portulaca. So those are great for the heat. I have grown those in big ceramic pots out in full sun in the middle of the summer, and they have just performed surprisingly well. So they do great in the heat. So you can also self-sow those, and you can do that either in a container in the house or a seedling tray, or you can just do it right outside if you're going to be around to water and tend to it. So those are all of the flower varieties that I am starting from seed right now. So if you want to do that and you want to have a nice late summer bloom or an early fall bloom, now's the time to get those started. And I promised that I would talk about a fruit, and there is one particular fruit and that you can still start seeds from, and that is the ground cherry. And I did mention that earlier when I was talking about planting fruits and herbs around my fruit trees. But ground cherries are a really special fruit in my opinion. They have a very tropical, pineapple-y kind of a flavor, and they have a husk kind of like a tomatillo, but they're just really good. The variety that I have is the New Hanover, I think is the one that I'm growing this year. I will put that below. And that one has a very buttery flavor as well, and I absolutely adore it. I had forgotten to plant my ground cherry seeds when I started all of my tomatoes and eggplants and peppers in December, and so I thought I just wasn't going to be able to grow them this year. But I found that when the time was right and the temperature and the day length was right, I started getting volunteers popping up all over my garden. And so what I did is just go around and carefully dig underneath them and move them where I wanted them to be. So they are already setting fruit, which is really exciting, and I talked about them in my last garden tour. If you haven't seen that, I will link that below too. You can grow ground cherries in pots if they're big enough, and you can grow ground cherries in smaller gardens. However, they are a lot like tomatillos. They are bullies. They will branch and spread and get huge. Each individual plant gets to be a fairly large size. So if you have a smaller garden and you're wanting to plant other things, just keep that in mind. Either give them their own space, their own corner, or maybe put them in a pot instead. But they are a great source of fruit in the heat. So the hotter the better. So just like tomatillos, since tomatillos and tomatoes and eggplants are in the nightshade family, so are ground cherries, and ground cherries don't mind the heat at all. I have ground cherries growing right now, and they look like they are just in their prime. They are not slowing down at all. They're setting fruit, they're growing really tall, and so I am really excited. I go out and check every day to see if there are any fruits ripe, and there are not yet for me here. But it's kind of a summer summertime ritual that I will go out in the morning and I will collect a handful of ground cherries and just eat them up. And it is a rare thing for me to come into the house and to have any left when I get there. So I like putting them in my oatmeal too. Those are really good, but I really just like having a handful of them just to snack on. They're very refreshing, tart but sweet, tropical, buttery. They're just really, really good. So I would highly recommend those if you're in a smaller space but you want to be able to grow some fruit when it's hot. I really hope that this video has helped you figure out some things that you can plant in your own space. I would love to know what you're planting below. If you've got a specific variety of one of these flowers or a specific variety of one of the vegetables that I mentioned, I am always on the lookout to try new varieties and always love sharing the varieties that I am trying in my garden too. Good luck with your gardens in this very hot June weather. I will be back next time to give you more ideas on what you can plant in your garden as I'm planting it. I'm Kara from So Arizona. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy gardening.